I kind of think the advantage of play it hot, but also maybe constrain it into a smaller area is that question: how much do the individual players invest in the other player's character? Answers itself if they are clearly important movers and shakers in this confined space where they are, and be interested, even if they are not necessarily going to be as invested in friendship as they might be in, depending on what random things they've rolled, how disparate they seem to be.
Well, you can end up with a whole bunch of, cranky, embittered paranoiacs in Legendary Lives, right? I mean, the rolls can get you into some pretty incompatible people if you aren't. I mean, I'm not saying if you aren't careful. I mean, you can end up with, this psycho assassin and this bitter loner alchemist and this, I mean, one almost says, well, all right, shit, the only thing I can think you do is shackle you together in the slave ship. Go. That's the only way you fuckers are ever going to work together to do anything. I might as well do it.
But it also links back to what you said about if you have these NPCs who are implied by the characters, and they must want something kind of now and from people.
Right.
That same motivation can apply to the character, to the player character as well. They all have goals. They want something.
Right.
These people are in their way, or maybe they're able to help them do it. Engage with them.
Well, that's kind of the sorcerer approach, which is almost what I used to call the Calvin approach, which is here comes the family sedan, here comes the fire truck, here comes the cement mister. Oh boy,
But I think
whatever it is, it's going to be messy.
But I kind of had this huge. Here's a whole city of all sorts of things going. It kind of maybe would have been more fun for you to play if there had been a bit more focus down to here's a couple of things that are happening and therefore really engage with that.
And you're in it. There's no avoiding this. I would tend to agree with that, especially as the opener. There's so much room in this game for bringing forward certain things on your sheet, especially on the back of your sheet, as important. Like I said, you can find one or two of the things that you rolled that you really decide are anchors. I really treasure this. I really value that. This trait, I'm never giving up this trait. I rolled 2 traits. That one, I'll play a couple of sessions and change it out. But or just play it minimally and eventually say, well, that never was very important as a trait. And that other one, though, I'm never getting rid of that. I'm always going to be saucy or whatever. But how do you say that? I mean, that can't be play advice. How can you give advice for something that is intuitive and spontaneous?
But the problem is you can't give that as advice, but then because you can't give that, you don't say anything about the traits or what you do with them or what they're for or anything.
Right.
Until people pick them up and do anything with it and maybe show the potential to the other people they're playing with.
Right. Well, that's an ongoing issue for all role-playing texts.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a primary concern. And it's basically the same problem with teaching people music. How do you teach someone to enjoy, be good at, and listen to music while you play it? You can't. You can say so, but it seems so artificial and sterile and not particularly helpful, just written down. Final thoughts, I guess. I mean,
yes, we do seem to have, having moved on to basically the point of art. We should probably admit we finished talking about Legendary Lives, maybe. Do people have suggested final thoughts?
I'm never good at this part.
Yeah, I know.
And so, in conclusion, I enjoyed the game. I mean, it was a lot of. I rarely have played that many sessions of anything since a long time ago, and it was really it was fun. I learned a lot. Liked it.
I actually was kind of pleased at the sustained commitment, and I would say that I really liked the way that different people contributed different things. In I don't know how to say. I mean, it's not just three different characters. Somebody's going to watch these, I hope, someday, and say, "All right, look at these three players' completely different ways of presenting themselves and presenting their character." And yet somehow they all paid attention to each other anyway. That's what I'm talking about. There is three very different personalities, three very different screen presences, three very different ways of saying what you say and presenting what your character does. And yet it's the attention to one another.
Yeah, it's
that
I think this is one of the places where the music or jamming context is really the perfect analogy in terms of just the way different personalities interact creatively, but there's something has to hang together.
Right. I have come more and more to think we keep talking about role playing as a speaking medium, and I think that's been wrong. It's a listening one. It's the listening that actually makes the medium work. That's actually really critical. I mean, it's almost, listening in the more general sense. It involves body language and all those other things too. I get that. Robbie, if you were using this incredible amount of hours, 70 hours of role playing or whatever, as your text for a class about role playing, what would you ask the students to look at, or what would you think would be useful for them to notice, or not they wouldn't know to notice it unless you pointed it out, so what would it be?
A lot of things. I think it would be useful at the start. I would just in terms of this game having a kind of, didn't have it is just absolutely clear that the game did not have a story to start with, right? We had characters that were created with different backstories, but right, the big question mark, like how in the world would all of this mesh together? But as just an example of how, right, role playing is about not coming with a story destination in mind, but being this really dynamic, collaborative thing, I think would be very instructive. I think right from the get-go, going back to our opening sessions and having them watch Ross, and okay, what as a game master, what was he doing at the start to get us to start kind of pushing things forward, would be a very useful exercise. I think situations, because of the way that this game swerved, but when clearly roles were not going the way that the characters would have wanted them to go, what exactly were the reactions of that player, of Ross, the other players, in kind of dealing with those kinds of wild swerves, and kind of taking those and kind of getting the story to nonetheless go somewhere from all of that would be very useful. Yeah, I mean, this is a game where, you know, if I had the opportunity to play it again, I would jump in. I mean, you know, it was a lot of fun playing it, and I think with I don't know, it's a game that would work with any set of players, but I think with players coming in with a certain mindset, I think it's a winner. I mean, it's
I don't consider that I don't consider that a downside myself. I mean, it's a little bit like any other medium. You basically start with the idea that we're working with people who want to do this. Now what? Right. And I agree. I mean, I've talked it up for years. I mean, to the extent where Ross finally says, "All right, damn it, you know, I'll play this thing." And besides, it's free online, right? I can get that. So, but I haven't really. I don't know much about other people doing it. So I'd like to see it.
I guess one more thing I would say is that I feel like this is a game where it shows that, well, it required a lot of work. I think that like students who would look at a session would say, boy, everybody is having a good time, but they are definitely working at it. And right, this is not a game where things are just easily given to anybody, right? It's a game that I think encourages the players and the GM to really have to dig into it to get it to turn into what it should be.
Well, both in terms of effort of trying things, right? In terms of just activity during play, of just simply trying stuff. But right. Also in terms of engaging with the system, like the plants, the magic, any number of things where the religions, just, you know, you do well to say, okay, I learned how, but now I'm going to get better, you know, at this. I'm going to go and read that chapter now. Those all seem, you know, it's kind of antithetical to the idea of sit down and have a great time. You know, this is the pizza. You know, after you eat the pizza, you will have enjoyed the pizza and you will have had the pizza. Right. Instead of that, it's, you know, the idea. I think a lot of the games, I kept trying to tell people for years at the Forge, quit trying to design for, you know, the instant gratification, oh my god, it's awesome, you know, out of the box experience. Sit down, here's your thing, go, wham, it's awesome. And to me, it always had a very fast food sensation. And what is there for me to do, right? What do I now sit, and if I like what we're doing, what do I sit down and read and get better at? Where do I grab onto the system and start feeling like I'm, you know, working my musical instrument better than I was before? There's a difference between a setting where I feel like that can happen, and Legendary Lives does have that, and a setting which is just this huge gaudy wad. And the game that comes to mind for no particular reason, it's just very emblematic of it in my mind, is Slay Industries, which is a game I have, and you know, you there's 1 million pages to read, and even that's just the core book. I mean, there's 10,000 more. It's got a huge library. But it's just all a bunch of stuff to read. The notion that you would actually, the notion of getting better at your instrument or getting input about your instrument or more stuff to do with it through this experience of reading isn't there. It's just stuff you get to read and nothing else. Or, you know, if you do it properly, stuff that the GM channels to you, you know, over the course of many sessions. So there's a difference between having something that you dig into and get to use and think about and say, well, you know, I thought more about Dana stuff. I thought more about Elven religion when I went back and read it. Now that I've had a miracle or two, I went back and read those again, and oh my God, I know what I'm going to do now. I also really think it's a game where it's just not going to be the same way twice. I think that's
Sorry.
The game is not going to be the same game twice. You are going to get different characters, and it's going to be a different kind of fantasy. They will have different problems. They will have different goals. It's going to look different. The artist of the medium is going to be a different artist when we do this.
Cool. I don't think I've got anything useful to say, really, other than thanks very much. Given this is the first time I have run anything vaguely like this long.
Hooray!
More than one or two sessions. So I'm also a huge amount to learn from watching that. Anyway, but thank you very much.
Yeah, sure thing.